Welcome to a special edition of OverCoffee. I'm Dot Cannon, and Valentine's Day is 11 days away and counting. And today we are doing a special podcast live from Pipe and Thimble Bookstore, 24830 Narbonne Avenue in the city of Lomita. And we are going to be talking about combining creativity and technology to come up with something really super cool for the special people in our lives. This is our My Techie Valentine panel, and joining me right now, three special guests. On my left here is Michael Luong, who is the Los Angeles area manager of Playwell Technologies. And Playwell is a fantastic organization. They teach engineering by using Legos. Michael, welcome.
Thank you very much.
And then next to him is James Castellanos, who is the most, I am told, requested instructor in the history of Playwell Technology. Now that I'm embarrassing the poor guy. And he teaches, not only does he teach students, but he also trains instructors. It's great to have you, James. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And then to his left is Mitchell Malpartida, who is an awesome guy because he has a background in technology, education, but perhaps the very best way to introduce him to you is to say that he is all about combining technology and storytelling to give a great experience. Mitchell, welcome.
Thank you, Madam.
Before we get going on technology and Valentine's, let's identify actually a term that I've been using in relation to this panel, which is STEAM. What does STEAM mean? Because a lot of people go, what does that mean in relation to what you do? Michael?
So it stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Math. Ooh, it's a mouthful there. And yeah, it's really just a way to identify some of the science points that we want to drive home to kids. We want to introduce them to science and technology, engineering, math, and then also art. Let them express themselves through their engineering creations as well. And at Playwell Technologies, we help them build projects, learn about engineering, and let them also express themselves and learn some cool stuff on the way.
James, what are some of the ways using STEAM, as he's just defined it, that you approach kids who, let's say, are artists, and you'd probably scare them half to death if you said math and science?
Okay, good. Could you repeat that? So,
what are some of the ways that you use STEAM to get kids that are artists, primarily artists, interested in math and science, whereas if you just said, let's do math and science, they'd probably run for the door?
Yeah, I think like Michael was saying, that this is a great way for them to express themselves. And when we come into the classroom, people want to express themselves differently. The more mechanical individuals, people that are thinking, they're artists too. Their art is more mechanical art, and that's what they want to express. They want to build a machine for you that works so perfectly, and that's their art, that's their craft. Other people, they want to focus on the color and the aesthetic, and their build is going to be something that complements the overall build in that way. And whatever that is, we want to bring that out in our classrooms too.
And you do some very cool things with that. Speaking of cool things, Mitchell, what about STEAM is most magical for you? I understand that you teach technology classes and you also teach STEM classes. What do you do to interest kids in STEAM?
So what I do is I've actually taught from kindergarten all the way to college level, and as well as other educators. And what I focus on is developing a story, right? So let's take technology out of the equation for a second and look at what the mind wants to create, right? And with that, now let's bring the technology back little by little in steps and put it all together to deliver that story.
Before we get to storytelling for Valentine's Day and creating cool stuff, I'd like to know how STEAM and technology became magical for each of you.
Oh, that's a challenging question. For me, I'll say actually it was because of this job, Playwell Technologies. I was studying to be a teacher. I was pursuing my teacher credential, and I saw this really cool part-time job. At the time, it was a part-time job, just teaching engineering to kids with Lego. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. I like stacking bricks. Why not? And through Playwell Technologies, it introduced me personally to just so much cool stuff. Not only on the engineering front, but on the creative front, to be able to express. Yeah, it's a silly thing to say, but being able to express yourself through plastic, like it's just this kind of crazy world that I became a part of. And the people at Playwell Technologies have been just super. They're super creative. Excuse the term, a geeky kind of group of people too, and that kind of brought out the the creativity or geeky creativity inside of me that I just kind of buried deep down until that point. So that's kind of how that got to me.
I don't think expressing yourself through
No.
plastic is foolish or silly at all. I think it's great. How about for you, James?
You know what? When I was a kid, I used to have like build big dreams as a kid. I remember being with my next door neighbor. He'd be like, "Yeah, let's build a robot." And yeah, let's do it. But we kind of don't know where to go from this. With this, it was a great idea, and I didn't have a whole lot of support early on growing up, which is why I like doing what I do. But I didn't have a whole lot of support growing up in really bringing out those passions that I had. And I guess it's like Michael. I grew up later on in life, pursuing other paths, and was brought into this job. And I'm more of an art person. I love creating stuff, and this job helped me realize how passionate I was about engineering before, and working here for the last going on 6-7 years,
800 years,
has made me passionate about teaching engineering, how spreading that, and not only to my son, to the kids that come my way, my classes. Yeah.
That's fun that you came in as an art person. How about for you, Mitchell?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenging question because there's so much to go into. But just to go briefly into it, just as James mentioned, when I was young, and I think as most kids, and us as kids, you give us a box and it becomes a rocket ship. It becomes a robot. It becomes anything, right? And so when I was young, I loved taking things apart and just not being able to put it back together, but taking it apart was great. And just like James mentioned, I wasn't supported in terms of taking things apart, but I learned to start putting things back together a little bit. And then what happens, and I think what happens with a lot of children nowadays, is that you kind of get out of being a maker, right? And you start to go into school and you start looking at career, and that's kind of what I went to, right? So I went to like all career oriented, and it was all about pursuing a profession, right? And leaving that. And what brought me back into making and to teaching was my daughter, or my daughters now, soon to be son in a couple weeks. And so my oldest daughter, she's 8, when she was in kindergarten, I wanted to do something for her and her class that would be really cool. And so I was looking for STEM-related products, and I found this product called Little Bits, and I had Legos, right, as most of us do. And I combined the two together, and I made a little dancing robot and brought it to the class. And as soon as I saw their minds explode with this simple dancing robot, I had to do more. And that's kind of what got me started in being more active in STEAM.
I'd love to see that dancing robot. Let's invite our guests to come on in. It's great to see you. And you don't have to whisper or tiptoe. We're talking about Valentine's, STEM, and STEAM, and making cool things for Valentine's Day. We have 3 special guests here, 2 of whom are dads, and with all the creativity, let's talk about what are some of the coolest projects you can come up with for Valentine's Day. Let's say that we have somebody in the audience who might maybe like, maybe Star Wars or space or something like that, and someone that's a mom who might like to come up with some Valentines. What would be something that you might like to make for someone like that for Valentine's Day?
Okay, thanks. So one of the things that I do is I like to look at things and just break them down into basic components, right? So in James's example about building a robot and not knowing where to start, so if the interest was in robots and the theme is Valentine's Day, right? Now you put those 2 things together, it's like, okay, I want to make a Valentine's Day robot that that talks or sings to you, right? Sings a love song, or maybe dispenses candy, or something like that, or something cute, right? But it's not. You notice it wasn't really about the technology, right? We already identified that. It was about what is that story I'm trying to tell, and this is a Valentine's themed robot that is sharing the love.
I love that idea. I would think that probably dispensing candy for somebody 7 might be something a little bit more of interest than singing a love song, but I don't really know. How about it, James? What would you come up with?
How about this? So, a Valentine's Day themed class would probably give them. I'm glad I met this man. Incorporating story into your classroom so crucial because. Yes, I can give them something. For instance, I'm going to talk about a conveyor belt right now. Yes, I can tell them how to build a conveyor belt, and that's fine. They build a conveyor belt. What's it to you? But I can tell them we're going to build a factory that's going to help share love throughout a certain. Maybe Cupid is his love factory, which he uses to spread the love around during Valentine's Day. It's broken. We need to fix it. I'm going to show you how to build a conveyor belt, and we're going to send those love. Maybe we'll build little hearts, and we're going to build conveyor belts to send that love down. And those are the kind of things that I like to do in my class, and how we can spread the love.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, so just to kind of piggyback on what James was talking about, in a lot of our classes leading up to Valentine's Day, the kids will request, can we do a Valentine's Day theme, or can we do something related to it? And sometimes the kids will want to generate their own stories. Like, can we deliver letters using a gear car to or can we do a color sorting? We have a robotic project that can sort colors with a claw, and they'll ask, well, can we sort M&Ms? I was like, yeah, but we can't eat the M&Ms afterwards because they've been through Lego, so it's probably not sanitary. But we can sort the M&Ms. So it's a cool Valentine's Day project for that. Sometimes the kids come up with their own thing, which is really cool too.
What are some of the cool things they've come up with?
Oh gosh, one project I did with a robotics for Lego class we did was, again, they wanted to, I guess because their teacher had given them those little fun-size M&Ms or whatever those colored candies. And they're like, oh, can we do a color sorting conveyor belt? I was like, sure, yeah, that's awesome. We'll put a color sensor over the conveyor belt. If it sees a red or a pink one, cool, it'll put it in this basket. If it sees another color, it'll put it in this basket. That's a really fun one. One project that we're going to show in about 40 minutes, give or take, and hopefully this young man here will be able to build with us as well, is we do what's called love bugs. So there's little bugs that couples can kind of ride on and kind of go on little adventures.
How much fun is that? That sounds so fun. Let's talk a little bit about the big kids, too. Suppose the, quote, big kids listening, and I've never grown up, let's hope that nobody else ever does either.
That's where the love songs come in, right there.
Is that
stage? There it is.
That stage, right?
Yeah.
What do we have for the big kids in the way of Valentine experiences? Let's just say we're going to take somebody on a date. It doesn't have to be your significant other. It can be your mom. It can be a cousin, favorite friend. You can even come up with something special for a special teacher. What would be something you'd come up with STEAM-related for that? I'm going to start with you this time, Mitchell.
Okay, thank you. So something that I discovered from just researching and seeing all the great makers out there is thermoplastic. And what's cool about thermoplastic is that when it's heated, it becomes pliable like clay. And as soon as it cools, it's hard as plastic. And so one of the things that I've done with that is I've handcrafted flowers with embedded LEDs and running off of a coin battery. And that's a nice little simple gift, and it's highly personal.
How cool. Where can people find patterns and things for that, or do you have them on your website?
Well, I just Google images of flowers, and I kind of just go by that and figuring out, again, deconstructing what's making that flower, how many petals do I see for a particular rose or a tulip, etc., and then doing everything by hand one at a time. So it's a lot, just as with everything else, it's a lot of observation and research. You don't actually necessarily need a tutorial. Just look at the world around you.
And that seems to be what it's all about. Anyway, on the subject of things for big kids, James, what would you
for
come up
big
with?
kids? Am I talking about a date idea?
Well, it can be any kind. It can be a date with Dad, for example. Take my dad out someplace. It can be,
actually, I was thinking about something for my wife. I hope she's not listening, because this is actually an idea that I had from a while back. When she would come home from work, I wanted to build a Rube Goldberg machine that would trigger when she opens the door. And it would say something like, and it could say Happy Valentine's Day. I was thinking of more for my anniversary, but this can apply for Valentine's Day. But it would be, that would trigger once you open the door, and a Rube Goldberg machine, if anyone doesn't know, It's like a chain reaction machine. So one thing will trigger another thing. If you could think of the whole domino effect, one knocking over the other to hit a ball that does something else. Well, the end goal would be to lift up a sign that said "Happy Anniversary" or "Happy Valentine's Day" or something along the lines of that. And yes, I hope my wife is not listening because it won't be a surprise. And
please cover your ears, Mrs. James Castellanos.
I think James needs a backup plan.
We won't talk about what the backup plan is, just in case you just heard that. That is a cool idea.
Yeah.
How about you, Michael?
You know, actually, James stole my idea. The Rube Goldberg machine is a great example of integrating something mechanical or engineering based with giving kids a chance to be, older kids a chance of being creative and expressing themselves. Because as I find that as kids get older, they get a little bit more jaded about the whole idea of Valentine's Day, and they're like, whatever. But if you give them a task to build around it and let them express themselves, it becomes something kind of more real and more approachable for them. So yeah, James totally took my idea.
We won't hold it against him
There you
now.
go.
Let's pretend that we have something that Lego has been doing recently. By the way, we are not in any way, shape, or form affiliated with Lego here. They did not endorse this broadcast. They did not authorize this broadcast. We just think they're very cool, as are Little Bits.
But if they want to sponsor in the future,
Yeah,
I'm
that
sure
would
you
be-
just reach out to
I would
them.
gladly take the
Say no.
sponsorship.
Yeah.
But what if
Lego's
we
awesome.
have something that's on your website right now? And let's combine that, Mitchell, with what you were just saying. What if we had 1 million Legos, and we're going to combine that with Little Bits? What's a very cool project we can come up with for Valentine's Day?
Oh, well, as soon as you introduce Legos and Little Bits, now you have, the recipe for success for anything you're trying to do. They really work well together. In regards to even what James's idea was, like that whole system of conveyor belt with that storytelling of your job is to fix it, or to add on to that, as part of the Rube Goldberg, and combining all the ideas, where your loved one or someone comes in, right, triggers a motion sensor, which then triggers something to an apple to drop off into a bowl, and that bowl now weighs a certain amount. That triggers a pressure sensor underneath it to run a series of lights and LEDs that run all the way down to this conveyor belt that now activates, and gears turning, everything's moving, and candy's being delivered, and then ultimately a music sound or something comes up, and voila, now you have this awesome experience for Valentine's Day.
I'm sorry that we only have 11 days, because you are tempting me half to death to make something like that. James, what would be something you'd build right now, other than that wonderful Rube Goldberg?
Ew, I'm going to
machine?
pass this over to Michael.
Oh, give
I'm
me
still
the
trying
hard-
to think of this.
A hard question. A music box would be a great idea. Something you could do too. Something where open it up, and not only does it play music, but maybe has a spinning creation of a little minifigure. Might be kind of cute too. Something like that. Likewise, I had one student. They didn't use Little Bits, but they used a Lego. Just make a Lego kind of snow globe too, which is really, I wouldn't have thought of that project. So it was a really creative fourth grader. I forget what school it was, but anyway, those are some great ideas as well.
Mitchell's dancing robot would look great in that
There you
snow
go.
globe.
Yeah, it came out to 2 versions. The first version, he just responded to sound and just kind of like shook his body. And in the second version, he actually was able to talk, and he did impersonations of other robotic characters like Baymax and a Dalek and from Doctor Who,
Yes.
fun stuff.
How awesome is that? What do you think, James? Would you like to comment on building 1 million Legos?
No, I'm still trying to think. I'm drawing a blank here.
I did not mean to put you on the
No,
spot here.
no. I don't know.
I'm gonna.
I'm gonna interrupt you in like a few minutes. Go, I got an idea.
You may certainly interrupt me, as may our audience, if there's anything we're not talking about STEAM, Valentine's, and making Valentine technology here with all kinds of cool maker stuff. But I do want to ask you about resources. Mitchell, you've already talked about 2 of your favorite resources, the plastic where you make the flowers. I'm sorry, the name is currently eluding me. And then Little Bits. What are some others you'd recommend to makers?
So I think really what it boils down to, there are tons of resources out there and websites, but I think what it boils down to is the greatest resource that we all have is our minds, right? Because our minds have the capability of creating things that don't exist yet, And I say yet because it all starts with an idea, right? And it's taking that idea and manifesting it in the real world. And that's one of the things that I try and focus on with my students of all ages is how to take that and remove the intimidation factor of technology, of the tools and the materials, and again, taking that idea and then breaking it down into parts that you can actually build and come up with your story.
I'd love to hear some more about losing that intimidation factor after we can get a couple of more resources here. Michael, besides the Legos, what's another favorite for you with maker stuff?
Oh goodness! I mean, the great thing about making anything is that everything is a resource. It's I'm not sure how related this is, but for training for our instructors, one thing we do is we give them an everyday object like a bottle of water or a pen, and have them figure out a way to integrate into a Lego project. So they make a grabber to grab a pen. I don't know if James remembers this, but way back 2 years ago, I gave him a can of Coke to roll up a ramp and just figure out a way to get up there. And so there's a lot of ways to integrate everyday objects into the things you're making, which is really cool. Yeah, and then the nice thing about Lego too is that there's so many online resources where people just display what they made, and sometimes it's Lego, sometimes it's Lego mixed with other devices or other things, and it's a fantastic kind of Lego maker community.
Let's name one or two of those online resources now.
Goodness gracious, I wish I had. You know,
Constructables.
Yeah, Constructables. That's one I'm familiar with. Oh, I know. There's another one. Darned if I'm not freezing on it. I'll have to get. I'm sure I'll think of it.
We'll even make like Maker Share. I mean,
yeah,
the whole
right.
Make community. You can just start on that website, and that kind of takes you along the path.
Right.
Then you'll get into like sites like Adafruit, right, which has some great tutorials, good online content there. Even like the various products that we've mentioned have their own resources.
Yeah,
Lego has their own
resources.
STEM-related courseware and online tutorials, little bits. You go to their website, they have tons of stuff. Just all these other ones like Anki, they have Cosmo Robot, which is a great gadget that I've been playing a lot with. Meccano, who's like been in the maker space since before I was even born.
Haven't heard about Meccano.
Meccano, it's just construction. I mean, if you're into construction, that's one of the things to do. Wonder Workshop has a product called Dash and Dot, and they're like these little Cyclops robots. They're more durable than some of these other products, so it's great for the younger minds to work with, and they have Lego attachments, right? Who doesn't have that nowadays?
Right.
But,
nowadays,
that's like a standard, right? Lego Plus, whatever, is wonderful, right? That's kind of where we're at. So yeah, and I'm sure between the three of us we can think of like a dozen or so more resources when we're under less pressure. But
That's me, the pressure.
there you go.
We can get to that later on too.
Well, James, what about that? And by the way, Meccano blew me away because you told me about this before the panel. I was looking up, they're the folks that made the erector sets. They date back to the 1890s. Wow.
It's crazy, right?
That's insane. James, what are some of your absolute favorite resources besides the ones we've talked about, the Meccano and the Instructables.com, the Adafruit, things of that nature?
I'm trying to think. I'll go Khan Academy, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
we love Khan Academy.
K-K-N.
You're not familiar with Khan Academy?
No, sorry.
Khan Academy is just a great resource for just learning anything, just the basics from whatever programming to whatever it is. You have brilliant minds behind that who wanted to offer a way to get free education to people, and this is a great way. And you have people learning lessons. They just have great achievements to keep you motivated to learning. They kind of map out what you've learned in the past, do assessments on what you're lacking as far as like math and science and things like that. It's stuff that maybe I learned once and I forgot, and it's all coming back to me. And it's a great resource that I'm planning on using with my son, definitely,
Very cool.
for brushing up on those math and sciences.
KhanAcademy.org, if I remember correctly.
If you Google Khan Academy, you should be able to find it. Yeah.
What kind of achievements do they offer? If you have, your
I mean,
son
just
learning
they're little like badges that said you've completed something, or which kind of correlate with something you would see in like video games. Video games do a lot of that, where they put little achievements, and they don't mean anything, but they're little achievements that you feel accomplished once you've done. But instead